What if everything you thought you knew about the supposed genocide of the Native Americans by the Europeans was a completely false dichotomy? Watch my video and learn all about it. Here's a little video about the communist Chinese, Islamists, La Raza activists, and liberal white women parroting the narrative that Europeans committed genocide against the Native Americans. These communist Chinese sure do like to parrot the talking points of the Native American genocide, Chen Weihua. He was so wrong, desperate, and absurd. The U.S. was not xenophobic. It just slaughtered all the Native Americans who lived there for many, many centuries and then took huge territory from Mexico and other countries. Liu Zhao. Sin number 1, colonialism. The U.S. committed genocide and crimes against humanity. Over the 100 years after the U.S. founding, Native Indians were expelled and killed during the westward expansion. Their population plunged from Hua Chinyang. Now this is someone parroting a Western, self-hating propagandist. David Stannard, a historian and professor at the University of Hawaii, argues in his book American Holocaust, the European and white American destruction of the native peoples was the most massive act of genocide in world history. About 95% of the native population was decimated. And the Chinese embassy even got in on the game. The Chinese embassy in Washington, D.C. has released a statement titled, The American Genocide of the Indians, Historical Facts and Real Evidence, in the news section of its website. The statement identifies the definition of genocide and goes on to state that according to international law and its domestic law, that what the United States did to the Indians covers all the acts that define genocide and indisputably constitutes genocide.
When the United States was established in 1776, more than 5 million native Indians were estimated to be living in the country. By 1900, the figure sharply dropped to about 250,000. The drastic reduction in population was a result of state-sanctioned killings and other abusive policies. The country was not so much built on justice and domestic tranquility as written in its constitution. It was born from the bloodshed of Native Americans and grew up without atoning for its genocidal crimes. This is Xinhua Commentary, the best window on China's views. I'm Zhang Li in Beijing.
And of course, we have the Muslims getting in on the game. Muslims Incorporated. Since this is gaining momentum, it is shocking to note that 55 million Native Americans were killed by European colonizers.
America is the genesis of what we call settler colonialism. And the American model was exported all around the world. The American Indians were the people on that land when the settlers conquered it. First, they tried to eliminate as many Indians as possible. This was the first recorded genocide in modern history.
And we have the obligatory, liberal, white female, the Christy Bish. The American government systemically committed genocide against Native Americans and used ex-slaves to eradicate the buffalo into extinction as a way of taking natives' food sources away. They broke treaties, marched into native villages with machine guns, and then mowed the men, women, and children down. The soldiers left one native alive to dig the mass grave and then shot them into it. Fuck the American government. Illegal immigration is not new. Native Americans used to call them white people. Reminder, white supremacists, you are not Native Americans. You are an immigrant who massacred the natives who welcomed you to America. Ever heard of the Trail of Tears? Sure, let's talk about the replacement genocide against the real natives of America. Jackie Cloth. Well, to be honest and truthful, everyone is illegal except what is left of the native tribes the whites didn't kill. There are estimates ranging from 400 to 600 different tribes of Native Americans when white men set foot on this land. There are now 574 recognized by the U.S. government. White man seems to be the most destructive race in the world, wouldn't you say? They are still at it with known racist leader who is proud he's racist. He is sick in the head, heart and soul.
Happy Independence Day to a country that was founded on slavery and the genocide of Native Americans and the subjugation of women.
None of y'all's ancestors came here legally, originally. You slaughtered the fuck out of indigenous tribes and stole their land.
Yo estuve en la Torre Trump cuando decía el presidente electo Donald Trump estaba a 16 días de tomar protesta por primera vez como presidente, asumir el cargo. Y yo dije, si hacemos el muro, sí lo pagamos, pero lo hacemos con el mapa de México en 1830. Este es lo que era Estados Unidos en 1830, y esto era parte de México.
The narrative that we slaughtered the Native Americans, that we killed millions of them, that it was a genocide, the evil European put to the sword all these innocent Native Americans, this is widely held and widely disseminated. So how much truth is there to this talking point? Well, guess what, people? There isn't hardly any truth. I mean, there's a tidbit of truth in there, but 97% of Native Americans died from disease. Only 3% died from direct violence due to European actions. By the time Lewis and Clark, them intrepid explorers, had made their westward journey in the early 1800s, the land was already depopulated. Diseases such as typhus, smallpox, other diseases had already run rampant before the whites even made it to these interior parts of the country. This is common sense. Do you think white Europeans actually had the military force to be able to just kill millions of struggling, resisting Native Americans? We had a problem with a few thousand Comanches. We had a problem with a couple hundred Apaches. You're telling me that millions of these Native Americans wouldn't have been able to put up a resistance? That's hogwash. 97% died from disease. Only 3% died from direct violence. Isn't it interesting that this group of disparate America haters all regurgitate the same exact talking points? They provide no context, no real history, no historical background. It's all the same exact message, that the evil white man committed premeditated genocide against the American natives. And while we could all agree that the United States didn't treat the Native Americans with kindness or fairness in the genesis of this nation, what nation did treat the people they conquered on the lands that would make up the body of their nations fairly? Do the Han Chinese treat the Tibetans or the Uyghurs fairly? Did they treat the Vietnamese who they invaded for 1,000 years fairly? Did the Islamic armies that conquered the Middle East, North Africa, Central and South Asia treat the indigenous populations fairly? Did the Aztecs treat the surrounding Native American tribes fairly? No, they murdered, enslaved, exterminated, and plundered the indigenous cultures whose nations they seized to make their own. Are they returning that stolen land? Are the Mexicans giving back the lands to the various Indian tribes? Are the Chinese giving Tibet and Western China back to the Tibetans and Uyghurs? Are the Muslims giving back the Middle East, North Africa, Central and South Asia back to their original owners? No, they are all on stolen land as well. And what of these self-loathing white liberal women? I don't see them giving up their homes and properties to Native Americans anytime soon. Do you? No. Anyone with one iota of historical knowledge would know that peoples, nations, empires, and cultures are conquered by fellow peoples, nations, empires, and cultures. It doesn't make it right, but it is the sad fact of history, of the human condition, of the reality of the world in which we live. To think otherwise is beyond the pale of ludicrousness. It is insane. With that said, regardless of the shared responsibility the world shoulders concerning the brutal way in which we established our modern nations, the fact remains that it was not military force of arms that wiped out the Native Americans. If you don't trust me, listen to what the progressive author of the authoritative book on the Europeans and their conquest called Guns, Germs, and Steel. See what he has to say on the subject. Much of the credit for European military success in the New World can be handed to the superiority of their weapons, their literary heritage, even the fact that they had unique load-bearing mammals like horses. These factors combined gave the conquistadors a massive advantage over the sophisticated civilizations of the Aztec and Inca empires. But weapons alone couldn't account for the breathtaking speed with which the indigenous population in the New World were completely wiped out. Within just a few generations, the continents of the Americas were virtually emptied of their native inhabitants. Some academics estimate that approximately 20 million people may have died in the years following the European invasion, up to 95% of the population of the Americas. No medieval force, no matter how bloodthirsty, could have achieved such enormous levels of genocide. Instead, Europeans were aided by a deadly secret weapon they weren't even aware they were carrying: smallpox.